I'm Chris of all trades, and this is the M&P Shield. Let's take a look. The M&P line of handguns was started in 2005 by Smith & Wesson. M&P stands for military police. Obviously, it is marketed toward military and police personnel. It started with the full-size M&P handgun, and a few years later, that concept was built upon as the M&pc, or M&P Compact. People loved the Compact as well, and so there was demand for an even smaller version, the M&P Shield. A few years after that, there was even the M&P Bodyguard, which is their smallest handgun in that line, but we won't be covering that. We have the Shield right here today. I picked this up a few months ago, and it is my first personal weapon that I've ever owned. I do not yet have my concealed carry license, but I will be planning on getting that soon. So for now, I just carry it around in this Game Boy Advance SP bag that I stole from my wife. Let's open her up here. This thing's a perfect case for carrying the gun. You can see it's got a little compartment on the top there for our spare magazine even. But enough about that. Let's take a look at the goods. I am carrying this gun in a Incog Eclipse holster, I believe. This is about an $80 holster that my buddy got at a pawn shop for me for 10 bucks. I'm not going to go too much into detail about that, but we will talk about it a little bit later on. So for now, I will just make sure that she is empty. I always have her loaded, but she is good to go right now. And I do have ammo in my mags, but I'm not going to load these, and if I do, I will clear the chamber. Practice proper gun safety, everyone. So, this right here is the M&P Shield. I have the 9mm variation. They also have some in 40 and as well as 45 ACP. If you do pick those larger rounds, of course, you are going to face a lower round capacity in your magazine. And because the Shield already has a somewhat low capacity on its own, I chose to go with the 9mm version to kind of pick the best of both worlds. When you buy the 9mm version, you will get in the box one 8-round magazine, one 7-round magazine, giving you 9 rounds total in your mag if you use the long one. If you choose the 40 or the 45, you will get 7 rounds in a large one and 6 in the small. The large magazine that you get has a extended base plate so that when you insert it into your gun, it kind of extends the grip a little bit, whereas for the smaller magazine, it'll just be a flat base plate that is flush with the little notch there that you see. I myself picked up the Pierce Pinky Grip Extender for this one. It does not increase the capacity, but it does give you that pinky grip, and we'll cover that a little bit later. But for now, we'll just focus on the gun itself. I am also sporting the rubber Talon grip. It is an adhesive grip that goes around the gun and gives it a nice rubbery feel to it, and that does come with a strip to go with the extended default mag, and they even sell a rubber strip to go on the Pierce Pinky Extender. So that is super cool. So this will be a real sort of casual review, some opinions and thoughts for myself, and I will give you my feelings on whether or not you should buy this gun. I will say right off the bat, you should. This is a fantastic handgun, and I have not had a whole lot of opportunities to fire it just yet, but from what I've experienced so far, and from what everyone seems to be saying, it performs very, very, very well. There are a few cons that I'm going to go over, but I will preface them by saying that none of these cons are deal breakers for me, and they're all a little bit nitpicky. So take from those what you will, and make sure that you get your hands on one of these yourself before you decide if you want to buy one. So we'll start with the cons real quick. They are few, but they should be considered, I should say. The first and foremost one that I noticed was that the grip is very hard and kind of rough to start out with. I have delicate hands, so when I first held this thing, it was kind of abrasive on my hands, and firing it was a little bit bothersome to me. But if you get these Talon rubber grips, They're a little bit tricky to put on, but if you put those on, that fixes the problem very well. Ever since I got these rubber grips around Christmas time, it's felt great to hold. I haven't got a chance to shoot it since I got the grips on, but I can assume that it's going to help the shooting as well. And like I said before, the Talon grip also comes with Pierce one if you want to buy that, and it comes with the extender for the plate for the larger magazine that you get with the gun. So rough grip, that's a little bit bothersome. A lot of people complain about the trigger on this. It's worth me talking about. However, I will say that for me personally, it doesn't bother me that much. If you can see, it is a little bit mushy. You can tell even more so if you cock it and just listen to that action and take a look. It is a little gritty. I will say that if you're a target shooter or a sport shooter, that may bother you. If you're a more casual or a new shooter like I am, it shouldn't bother you that much, I don't think. I don't have very much experience with handguns, automatic handguns that is. I have shot quite a few revolvers in the past, so I'm used to double action pulls and single action. And compared to other automatic pistols that I've fired, this is a little gritty, but again, it's not super noticeable for me, and I don't think it impacts my shooting that heavily. So yeah, that's just kind of what you make it. It does have a weird safety feature that a lot of people aren't a fan of as well, how you will not be able to pull the trigger from the top. There's a pivot about halfway down the trigger that you can see. You have to be pulling down on that pivot in order to pull the trigger fully. A lot of people don't really like that much. Again, for me, it doesn't really bother me much. It's just something to keep in mind. Okay, the biggest con of this well, actually, I'll get to that one last. Another little con about this gun is that it can be tough to get the magazines to slide in. I don't know if this is an issue with other pistols. If you're in a do or die situation, you can just slap it right in. But if I'm just handling my gun or if I'm at the range, I don't like to slam it in there. I feel like it's probably not a great idea. It probably won't break your gun, if we're being honest, but better safe than sorry. So whenever you want to load this, get into the habit of pulling the slide back, putting it in, just like that, and then you're good to go. Clear that real quick. All right. So that is something to keep in mind. Again, not a huge deal. And obviously you shouldn't be dry firing super much. I need to get some snap caps soon. But just a little thing to consider. Finally, the big con that everyone complains about is field stripping. This gun is a pain. It is not a fun time to disassemble this. In order to do it, and I will demonstrate because I brought a tool with me, a pair of nail clippers. In order to field strip this gun, instead of pulling the slide back, rotating the lock, and pulling the slide forward again, or pulling the trigger like other handguns would use, there is a small pin that you can see kind of pressed against the back end of the grip. You can barely see it. There it is. A little gold-colored pin that has a zigzag to it. Right there. In order to disassemble this gun, you need a narrow object like a pen or a file, like I got here, or your fingers if you have fingernails. I don't have fingernails because I picked mine. And even with my skinny fingers, I still can't get that without a nail. So I use a tool like this. You've got to, I would show you this, but it's really hard to see. You got to flip up that pin. And if you look, now you can see, whoops, not bad. You can see that pin, I flipped that up. It's hard to tell. You see it though. Once that's flipped up, then you can rotate the lock as any other handgun and pull the slide off. And then you got your frame. The rest of it is a breeze. You just pop out the spring like you would with any other. I'm not going to go into detail about how to disassemble this. I'm operating an assumption that you kind of basically know how to disassemble this. And also, of course, you'll get an instruction booklet when you buy the gun. So that's that. So got your slide, spring, barrel, simple stuff. If people want a tutorial on proper field stripping and cleaning of this thing, then I will Happily obliged. But for now, we'll just kind of put it back together and we'll get on with the review. So that is probably the biggest con about this gun, if you ask me. Field stripping it is a pain in the butt. But, I mean, it's not hard. And it'll just add an extra quick step to your cleaning process. No big deal. It's just something to keep in mind. A cool thing is about that pin, however, is you don't have to reach in and put it back in position. As soon as you insert a magazine, that automatically puts the pin back where it needs to go. And then you're locked and loaded, and you're good. So, we'll move on from that. That's the last con I have for you. Aside from that, I mean, the sights are... here, let's do that. The sights are not phenomenal. You can see, it's empty, don't worry. But they're not horrible. A lot of people change those out, and you can change them out. I haven't gotten to that yet. That's a little bit pricey, and I also want to replace the trigger eventually. Just something to keep in mind. It's not horrible. I don't mind it at all. So let's move on to the pros of the gun. Basically everything that's not a con is a pro. It just handles great. It feels great in my hand. I have long fingers, but kind of skinny, bony hands, and it fits my hand quite well. It's accurate. I'm not a crack shot exactly, but I was shooting pretty accurate with this thing. It conceals very, very well. It is less than an inch thick, which it's kind of hard for you to be able to tell that on the video, but it is very, very, very narrow, if you can see, compared to my hand. It's very narrow, and it conceals very well. And we'll do a quick concealment demonstration at the end of this video with my holster, and you can see just how good it gets concealed on a skinny guy like me. So, we'll see that. Yeah, it's just a nice gun. There's a lot of hype surrounding it. It's getting rave reviews all around. A lot of people love it. A lot of people have their hands on it. If you're part of any gun community, or if you want to go to a range that lets you rent guns, odds are they'll have this. Or if you're part of a community, odds are someone will be willing to let you take a few shots with this if you want to try it out for yourself. It's got a great price point. I believe it's $400 plus tax tag fees, all that stuff. So it cost me a total of about $450 when you consider taxes and registration and all that good stuff. Which for a fine handgun like this that is plenty reliable and works like a charm, it's a great deal. This is brand new, of course. Now, a big factor in my decision on getting this gun versus the compact or the full-size M&P was the width. I'm the kind of guy who really wants a good grip on my gun, which with the small magazine that you get for it, which has a flat base plate normally, that does leave your pinky hanging off a bit. So that is something to consider. If you get the extender, then this is like $2 or something. I'll put a link in the description for that. If you don't get that, then consider the fact that your pinky might be hanging off, and I'll leave you to decide if that is a problem. But for me, it is. My grandfather has a .38 special revolver that he has let me shoot before, and I hate it. I do not like firing that gun because it's got a really small grip with a curved bottom, so your pinky just doesn't have anything to hold on to, and it's awful. I don't like shooting any handgun without my pinky getting a good grip on that so I can have some leverage. But the Shield, interestingly enough, has a longer grip than the compact. So if you're like me and you do want that pinky action on there, the Shield might be a better choice for you. Now, a compact has a thicker grip, and that is because it's a double stack. The compact is slightly bigger than the Shield. It does have a higher capacity. I can't remember the capacity for the compact off the top of my head, so I'll just put it right there. There you go. So if you're shooting more for sports, just for fun, or if you're a larger person who has more room on their body to hide a thicker weapon, or if capacity is something that you are worried about, the compact might be the way to go. However, for me, I'm a smaller guy. I need a smaller weapon. Capacity is not a huge concern for me, and this thing fires just fine on its own with the grip that I get. And I did rent the compact and the Shield at the range beforehand to compare them, and the compact does fire a little bit better for me just because it just feels better with a thicker grip. But if your concern, if your priority is to get a good concealed carry weapon, and your priorities are not with capacity or a really thick handhold, then this is the way to go. I don't think that the wider grip and the higher capacity on the compact warrants buying it over this one, unless those are things that you really want. Again, it is your call. I highly encourage you to try them both before you decide, but for me, this was the one that I picked out. And also, this is a little bit cheaper, so there's that. But all that said and done, it is a fantastic weapon. Again, compared to the compact, there are some things you want to compare and contrast, but if you are debating whether or not to get this, I encourage you to buy this gun. It's really, really, really great. Never make a decision without weighing all the pros and cons out. I hope that I've done a good job at listing those to you today. So without any further ado, I'll put on that holster and I'll show you what this thing looks like concealed on me. All right, so the Incog Eclipse holster, I have been told that it's designed for an appendix carry, but I have it on the 5 o'clock or so. As you can see, that is how I prefer to carry it. Like I said, I do not have my concealed carry permit yet, so I haven't actually worn this thing around. However, I have walked around the house with it. I've done some quick draw drills, just figuring out how it feels, and this is how it feels good to me. Here we go. There's ammo in the mag, but it is not chambered, and as you can see, snaps in there nice and tight, and it's not going to move with your average day-to-day activities. You could probably do cartwheels with this thing, and it's not going anywhere. It snaps in real nice and tight, and it does have an adjustable tightness as well as an adjustable height up and down your belt if you want a higher draw. But as you can see, or as you can't see, it conceals real well on my back, even for a skinny guy like me. Hopefully you don't see that too much. It might print just a little bit, but as long as you're moving around, or if you have an overshirt, it'll be just fine. And it draws real well. Real good. And there we go. So thanks for watching, everyone. This concludes my review and analysis of the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield in 9mm. Hopefully I'll get some footage coming up here real soon of me shooting the thing, and I will update you guys once I finally get my permit, and I'll come back with probably a revisited review if I ever plan on getting some modifications done to this thing, which would be really cool. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you appreciated the video and got something out of it. I hope you liked it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment below if you have any thoughts or opinions or questions, and I will do my best to get back to you. This is Chris of All Trades, signing out.